Hey, welcome back, everyone. Now, something we're into today, frankly, are a bit concerning, to say the least. Folks, Russia has begun rolling out nuclear armed ships. This is the first time it's done it in 30 years, or roughly around there. They've also suspended the New START treaty, which was a agreement made under the Obama administration to start scaling down the number of nuclear weapons. And at the same time, you also have China weighing whether it's going to start supplying Russia with weapons, and this is becoming a red line for the United States. Basically, the way things are heading, it looks like Russia is being pushed towards China. They did not have they had somewhat of an alliance. They're now building a very solid alliance, and for the world, this is actually a very bad thing. This is the country with the most resources in terms of land mass and oil and natural gas, coming together with the country with the most people. India might be a close second, and also very serious global ambitions. The alliance between the Chinese Communist Party and the Russian Federation, especially as they both move to oppose the United States and the Western world, is actually a very big thing. And so let's go into what's happening right now. I want to kind of detail what's happening with these ships, detail where things are at with, frankly, talks of war. Biden on President's Day went to Ukraine, met with Zelensky, giving them more money. Americans are going to start paying even the pensions of Ukrainians and start supporting them financially. There's going to be indefinite support for them. There's a lot going on right now. And of course, they also announced new sanctions against Russia. The Biden administration announced new sanctions. And Russia's basically, well, their media is saying this is an act of war. Let's go into it, folks. First, though, those of you on YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, Facebook, we will jump over exclusively to Epic TV after about 25, 30 minutes or so be sure to join us there. All right, folks, that said, let's jump into the first story. I want to show you Yahoo News. And it says Russia deploys ships armed with tactical nuclear weapons for the first time in 30 years, says Norway. So I want to be clear, this is not just hyperbole. This is not me trying to be sensational. This is what's happening right now, at least according to Norwegian intelligence. It says here that Russia has started deploying tactical nuclear weapons armed vessels in the Baltic Sea for the first time in 3 decades, according to a Norwegian intelligence report. The report released by the Norwegian Intelligence Service on 13th of February states that the vessels belong to the Russian Northern Fleet, reported the New Voice of Ukraine. The fleet's warships regularly went to sea with nuclear weapons during the Soviet era, but this is the first time the Russian Federation has deployed them, the report stated. And it says the key part of the nuclear potential is on the submarines and surface ships of the Northern Fleet, it said. Tactical nuclear weapons are a particularly serious threat, you don't say, in several operational scenarios in which NATO countries may be involved. The intel report added that Russia also has submarine capabilities, anti-satellite weapons, ASAT weapons, which the CCP also has, and other capabilities that could threaten Norway. Remember, this is Norwegian intelligence, so they're looking specifically at threats to Norway. Now, folks, first time in about 3 decades that we've seen them do this. Now, I would say on two sides. One, this is an obvious show of force. Russia is basically saying, do not support Ukraine, don't come near us, don't challenge us, or we will be forced to use nuclear weapons. That is the message they're sending to the world. Because Russia, even Russia and China put together, would have a very difficult time fighting the militaries of the world. If you were to have the United States step in, if you were to have Japan and other countries step in, especially against China, the CCP and Russia would have a very serious run for their money. As we're seeing right now, even Ukraine is giving Russia a pretty serious run for its money. Although keep in mind they have a lot more people, and we're even with the amount of deaths and the loss of military equipment we've already seen, they're going to be trying to drag this out. This is going to be something that could go on for years, based on the way it's heading. This is not going to be resolved anytime soon. And the Chinese Communist Party may step in as well. We know that the Chinese military is about roughly as strong as, if not a bit less so, than the Russian Federation. And the CCP would also have a very difficult time, of course, fighting a major war. But of course, if they brought nuclear weapons into the game or anti-satellite weapons into the game, it would change it quite a bit. And so this is the message they're projecting right now to the West. Remember also that Russia had talked about using tactical nuclear weapons or miniaturized nuclear weapons in regional areas in Ukraine. That would mean, of course, not like massive atomic, detonations that would wipe out entire cities. This would be like nuclear detonations. It would be a lot more localized, but would still be devastating and also have very likely a nuclear fallout, making that area you wouldn't be able to go to there without getting sick, without probably dying from nuclear radiation poisoning. This is something they're talking about. And frankly, even the idea of chemical weapons now or biological weapons is not off the table. I've been seeing a lot of reports, for example, that Ukraine itself has been using chemical weapons. I spent a long time trying to look into it. I'm on the fence. I can't decide. I can't figure out whether it's disinformation or whether it's legitimate. It looks like the accounts pushing it are mainly Russian accounts or Russian-tied accounts. And I know that the Russian Federation does have a very strong force that works specifically on creating like fake videos and trying to frame other people for it. They do this. I've actually worked directly on debunking some of this stuff in the past. I'm not saying it's that, but I am saying that it's hard to tell the source material. It's hard to find the source of some of this information. But there is relatively credible video evidence and articles and even claims from some Ukrainians that some of the drones they're using to drop bombs on, Russians on the field are using chemical canisters, which would violate some of the arms control laws and would give Russia pretty much an open window to meet Ukraine in like, which would be chemical weapons. Very disturbing stuff. In terms of aggressors and so on, it's complicated. I know that even Trump himself now is coming out and basically saying that pretty much the Western world, the Obama administration, the United States basically was involved in the overthrow of the former Ukrainian government, which was pro-Russia, replaced it with Zelensky, which is who is anti-Russia. And, of course, was involved in the color revolution that helped instigate and basically form that whole thing. George Soros is also accused of this. I'm well aware of the history. Russia believes it has historical ownership over Ukraine. The question is, how do you define historical ownership? Because if you look at the way like empires have changed over the thousands of years of human history, they've changed quite a bit. Just about, many countries could claim historical ownership of many countries at this point. Britain could claim historical ownership over like a quarter or half of the world if they wanted to. The British Empire used to own all of you, so.